Azania's peaceful kingdom was plunged into chaos when the demon Zilako began to awaken. With ancient magic and unexpected allies by her side, she fought to save everything she loved. Stick around to see how she turned the tides. Hit like on this video and subscribe to the channel to be a part of our family for more epic tales like this. The kingdom of Marub was a land of great beauty, bordered by the vast and mighty river Neba and the towering mountains that sheltered the people from the dangers beyond. The kingdom had always been peaceful, ruled by King Azania and Queen Nambo, whose love for the people of Marub was unmatched. Their daughter, Princess Azania, was a young woman of extraordinary strength and grace. At 21, she had already proven herself as a capable ruler in training, having taken part in diplomatic missions and military strategies to protect the kingdom. Azania was not just admired for her beauty, but for her intelligence, compassion, and wisdom. People loved her for her deep connection with the land and its creatures. But as the kingdom prospered, a shadow was slowly creeping in. The elders spoke, in quiet, fearful tones, of an ancient demon named Zilako, a force of pure destruction who once nearly brought the kingdom to its knees centuries ago. Zilako had been sealed away by the kingdom's ancestors, but now the seal was weakening. The balance of nature had begun to shift, and dark forces stirred beneath the earth. Princess Azania felt an uncomfortable weight on her shoulders as she listened to the elders' warnings. She knew that she would have to face the demon if it ever returned, but could she find the strength to defeat such a powerful enemy? With her family beside her and her kingdom's future at stake, Azania had to make a choice. Would she confront this evil and protect her people? Or would the kingdom fall to darkness? It wasn't long before Azania's fears began to materialize. Strange things were happening throughout the kingdom. Crops withered, animals grew restless, and the river's flow began to slow, its once powerful current now reduced to a mere trickle. The earth, once rich and fertile, seemed to be wilting under an unseen force. Azania knew that the return of Zilako was near, and she needed to prepare for what lay ahead. King Azania called for a meeting of the royal court. The palace was filled with tension as the elders spoke of the ancient prophecy that foretold the return of Zilako. The signs were all there: a fading river, dying plants, and the growing sense of unease among the people. Azania's heart raced as she listened to the chief elder, Temba, speak of the ancient demon. "It is said that Zilako feeds on fear and despair," he explained, his voice low and somber. "Once he nearly consumed the world, but the first kings and queens of Marub sealed him away using the power of the land's magic. But now that seal is weakening. Zilako's return is inevitable." Azania felt the weight of the prophecy settle on her shoulders. Her father, King Azania, placed a hand on her shoulder. "Azania, you have always been strong. But the task ahead is beyond any one person. You will need more than just strength to defeat this evil. You will need the wisdom of the ancients." Azania nodded, determined not to let the kingdom fall. She would need to seek out the ancient knowledge of the kingdom's first rulers to stop the demon. But where would she find this lost power? And who could help her on this dangerous journey? Just when hope seemed to fade, a mysterious figure appeared in the kingdom: Niazi, a shaman known across the lands for his mysterious powers and deep connection to the spiritual world. Niazi had the ability to shape-shift into any animal and communicate with the ancestors and deities. His presence immediately caused a stir in the court. His eyes, sharp and knowing, seemed to see through the surface of things and pierce into the heart of the matter. He was not just a healer. He was a spiritual guide, someone who had helped many before in times of great darkness. Niazi arrived at the palace one evening, dressed in simple, weathered clothes, his long hair tied back and a staff adorned with feathers and beads in his hand. As he entered the royal chamber, the air grew heavier with an almost palpable energy. He stood before Azania and her family and spoke in a deep, resonant voice. "I have come because the ancestors have called me to help you. Zylako's return is not just an attack on your kingdom, it is an attack on the very balance of life itself. To defeat him, you must understand the ancient forces that bind this land together. Azania was both intrigued and skeptical. She had heard of Niazi's powers, but could he really help her defeat a demon as powerful as Zilako? What must we do? Azania asked, her voice steady, hiding her uncertainty. Niazi smiled faintly. There are trials ahead, Princess Azania. But with the right knowledge, strength, and respect for the ancient ways, you will have a chance to defeat Zilako and save your kingdom. The royal family quickly began preparations for the journey ahead. The elders, having heard of Niazi's arrival, agreed to guide Azania, Niazi, and Prince Zuberi to the Mountain of Ancestors, where they could seek the blessings of the land spirits. It was a long and dangerous journey, filled with trials, that would test their resolve, courage, and understanding of the ancient forces at play. The kingdom's warriors were summoned, but only a select few would accompany Azania on this sacred journey. As the sun set on the horizon, the royal family gathered one final time before setting off. Queen Nambal embraced her daughter tightly, her voice full of concern. You are the hope of Merub, Azania. But remember, strength alone will not be enough. You must learn to trust in the land and the spirits that guide us. Azania nodded, taking a deep breath. She was ready. With Niazi by her side, she would face the unknown, learn the ancient ways, and protect the kingdom she loved. As they left the palace, the kingdom's people gathered to wish them well. The journey ahead would be perilous, but Azania knew one thing for sure: she would not face it alone. Azania, Niazi, and Prince Zuberi set out early the next morning, leaving the kingdom of Merub behind. The air was thick with tension as they began their trek toward the Mountain of Ancestors, a place where the spirits of the kingdom's first rulers were said to rest. As they traveled through the dense forests, Niazi explained the importance of the sacred site. The mountain is not just a physical place, he said, his voice deep with reverence. It is a spiritual one, where the line between this world and the next is thin. To gain the blessings of the ancestors, you must prove your worthiness. You will face trials that will test not just your strength, but your spirit. Azania felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. The trials ahead seemed daunting, but she was determined to protect her kingdom. The land around them was alive with energy, the trees whispering secrets to one another as the group passed by. As they ventured deeper into the forest, strange occurrences began to happen. Lila saw flashes of light out of the corner of her eye, and the air grew colder as they approached the foot of the mountain. The journey had only just begun, but already Azania could feel the weight of the darkness that Zilako was spreading. She looked to Niazi for reassurance, but his eyes were focused ahead, knowing the true challenges that awaited them. As the group reached the base of the Mountain of Ancestors, they encountered their first trial. Before them stood a massive stone door, its surface covered in intricate carvings and glowing with faint, otherworldly energy. Niazi stepped forward and spoke a few words in a language Azania couldn't understand. The door rumbled as it slowly began to open, revealing a dark, narrow passageway. The trial begins here, Niazi said, his voice steady. Inside, you will face illusions your greatest fears brought to life. Only by confronting them can you move forward. Azania and Zuberi exchanged a glance. The path ahead was uncertain, but they both knew they had no choice but to face what awaited them. As they stepped into the passage, the air grew thick with an oppressive energy. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the temperature dropped drastically. Suddenly, the path ahead split into two, and Azania saw a vision of herself sitting on a throne, crowned as the Queen of Merub. The image was perfect, a life she had always dreamed of. But something about it felt wrong. As she took a step toward the throne, the vision shifted, and Azania saw the people of the kingdom bowing before her, but their eyes were hollow, devoid of life. They were all under Zilako's control. In that moment, Azania realized the true cost of power and ambition, sacrificing everything she loved for a crown. It was a tempting vision, but one she knew she had to reject. Azania turned away from the vision and continued down the dark path, her heart heavy but resolute. She knew she had made the right choice. After what felt like hours, the group emerged from the narrow passageway into a large, open cavern. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the ground beneath their feet was soft and damp. In the center of the cavern stood an ancient stone altar, surrounded by statues of long-forgotten kings and queens. As Azania approached the altar, she felt a sudden intense presence. A voice echoed through the cavern, deep and powerful. "Azania, daughter of Azania and Namble, you seek the power of your ancestors to defeat Zilako," the voice boomed. "But before you can receive their blessing, you must prove your worth. You must sacrifice what you hold most dear." Azania's heart raced. What could she possibly sacrifice? She had already rejected the false vision of power. The voice grew louder, demanding a sacrifice. "You must choose," it insisted. "What is more important, your kingdom or your own life?" Azania closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She knew the answer. Her kingdom, her people, these were her heart and soul. She would never sacrifice them, no matter the cost. With a steady voice, she replied, "I choose my people. I choose Merub." The cavern fell silent. After what seemed like an eternity, the voice spoke again, this time with approval. "You are worthy, Azania. You have chosen the path of true strength." Suddenly, the stone altar began to glow with a warm, golden light. Azania felt a surge of energy wash over her, filling her with the power of the ancestors. She had passed the trial, and the first blessing was now hers. As the group left the cavern, feeling stronger and more united, they encountered another obstacle, this time in the form of a creature from the forest. A massive, snarling beast emerged from the trees, its eyes glowing with an unnatural red light. It was a guardian, placed there to test their resolve. The beast charged at them with incredible speed, its claws sharp and deadly. Niazi immediately shifted into the form of a powerful lion, his massive form standing between the creature and the group. "Stay back," Niazi commanded, his voice deep and commanding. The lion and the beast collided in a fierce battle, their roars echoing through the trees. Azania watched in awe as Niazi fought with strength and precision, each move calculated. Zuberi, though eager to join the fight, stayed back, knowing that this battle was one for Niazi to win. The shaman fought fiercely, using his magical abilities to control the beast's movements and weaken its strength. After a long struggle, Niazi landed a final blow and the beast collapsed. It was a victory, but one that left them all exhausted. "The forest does not give up its secrets easily," Niazi said, panting. "But you are now one step closer to your destiny." Azania nodded, grateful for Niazi's protection. She knew their journey was far from over, but with each trial, they were growing stronger and more ready to face Zilako. As Azania and her companions neared the heart of the forest, the atmosphere grew thick with the sense of impending doom. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of decay and death. The once lush landscape surrounding Merub had transformed into a shadowed wilderness. The trees stood twisted, their branches clawing at the sky, their leaves turning black as the land slowly withered under Zilako's influence. Azania felt a shiver run down her spine as they walked deeper into the cursed heart of the forest. Niazi had warned her that Zilako's power had begun to corrupt everything it touched. The demon's magic could warp nature itself, turning it into something monstrous. As they walked, the shadows seemed to whisper, voices barely audible, as if the forest itself was alive, but not in a way that was meant to be. Azania's heart weighed heavily. She was getting closer to Zilako's lair, and she knew that a final confrontation was inevitable. The battle with the demon would test her in ways she couldn't yet imagine. With each step, she reminded herself of the promise she had made to her people, to protect them at all costs. They couldn't afford to lose. They wouldn't lose. As they continued, Zuberi noticed something in the distance, an ominous shape lurking in the shadows. It was Zilako's followers, dark figures who had taken the form of twisted creatures, their eyes glowing red with dark magic. They had come to stop Azania and her companions before they could reach the demon. But Azania and her allies were ready. The battle was about to begin. As Zilako's twisted followers emerged from the shadows, the air crackled with dark energy. Azania drew her sword, its blade shimmering with the light of the ancestors' blessings. Prince Zuberi rushed forward, his spear raised high, ready to fight. Niazi, his body shifting into the form of a massive black panther, leaped into the fray with lightning speed. The creatures snarled and advanced, their bodies contorting in unnatural ways. The clash was fierce, with Zilako's minions using dark magic to attack from a distance while others charged with sharp claws and twisted limbs. Azania's sword danced through the air, blocking strikes and cutting down enemies with precise, powerful movements. She was filled with the energy of the ancestors, her strength renewed by the blessings she had received on her journey. Zuberi fought bravely alongside her, his spear cutting through the air with deadly accuracy. But despite their best efforts, the creatures kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. Niazi's form shifted again, turning into a giant eagle to dive down from the skies, snatching enemies from the ground and scattering them. But even with Niazi's powerful magic and the courage of Azania and Zuberi, it felt like they were fighting an endless tide. The creatures fell, one by one, but the battle was far from over. As the last of Zilako's followers were driven back into the forest's depths, Azania felt a sudden, bone-chilling presence behind them. She turned slowly to face it. Zilako himself was near. A deep, rumbling laugh echoed through the dark forest as the ground beneath Azania's feet trembled. The trees swayed violently, as if responding to Zilako's call. The air grew thick with dark magic, and before them stood the demon himself, towering and monstrous, his eyes burning with fiery hatred. Zilako was more terrifying than any of the stories had described, his body made of shadow and flame, his claws dripping with the power of destruction. He towered over them, his face twisted in a malicious grin. "So you've come to stop me, Princess Azania," Zilako sneered, his voice deep and filled with venom. "How foolish." Azania stood tall, her sword ready, but inside her heart was heavy. She had faced dangers before, but nothing like this. The power radiating from Zilako was overwhelming. He had once nearly destroyed the world, and now he had returned to finish what he started. "I will stop you," Azania declared, her voice unwavering. "I will protect my people, and I will destroy you." Zilako laughed again, the sound echoing through the trees. "You cannot stop me, Azania. I am ancient, and I have waited centuries for this moment. Your people, your kingdom, none of it matters. You cannot defeat me." With a wave of his hand, Zilako unleashed a wave of dark energy, sending Azania and her allies flying backward. The force was immense, and for a moment, Azania felt a surge of doubt. But then she remembered everything she was fighting for: the kingdom of Marub, her family, and the strength of the ancestors. She would not fall to this demon. She would rise to meet him. Azania rose to her feet, determination filling her every fiber. She could feel the power of her ancestors flowing through her as Niazi and Zuberi rallied by her side. Zilako's laugh faded, and the forest fell silent, as if waiting for the final battle to begin. Azania's grip tightened around her sword as she stepped forward. "I will not allow you to destroy everything I love," she declared, her voice filled with a quiet strength that seemed to echo through the forest. "You are a creature of darkness, and I will bring the light of the ancestors to end your reign of terror." With that, Azania raised her sword high, calling upon the blessings of the spirits and the ancestors who had fought to protect Marub for generations. Light erupted from the blade, blinding and powerful. Zilako howled in rage, his fiery form flickering as the light of the ancestors began to burn away the shadows. The battle raged on as Azania and her allies fought with every ounce of strength they had left, pushing back the demons' dark magic with the power of their unity and their love for their land. The world seemed to stand still as the light grew, brighter and brighter, until finally, with one final mighty strike, Azania plunged her sword into the heart of Zilako, banishing the demon spirit from the world forever. The darkness lifted and peace returned to Marub. The kingdom had been saved. With Zilako defeated, the dark clouds that had plagued the kingdom of Marub began to lift. The land, which had once been tainted by the demon's presence, began to heal. The crops that had withered in the shadow of Zilako's magic now flourished. The river's flow was restored, and the people of Marub rejoiced. The kingdom that had once been on the brink of destruction was now filled with hope and renewal. Azania stood at the edge of the palace, looking out over the kingdom she had fought so hard to protect. The morning sun bathed the land in golden light, and she could feel the spirits of her ancestors surrounding her, their blessings strong and unwavering. As the people celebrated, Azania's heart swelled with pride. She had saved her kingdom, but it wasn't just the victory that filled her with peace, it was the knowledge that she had stood strong, not only as a warrior but as a leader who had learned the importance of compassion, humility, and wisdom. The battle had been fierce, but it had taught her the true meaning of strength. As she turned to face her family, she saw the pride in her father, King Azania's eyes, and the love in her mother, Queen Namble's gaze. Zuberi, her younger brother, stood beside her, his strength and courage now evident. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. They had not only defeated Zilako, they had saved the spirit of Marub itself. As the kingdom celebrated its hard-won peace, Azania and her family took a moment to reflect on the journey they had shared. They traveled to the sacred spirit temple, the very place where the first rulers of Marub had sealed Zilako away centuries ago. The temple stood on the highest peak of the mountain, its stone walls covered with carvings of the kingdom's history. Azania, Zuberi, and their parents walked through the temple's halls, the air thick with the energy of the ancestors. As they reached the central chamber, Azania knelt before the altar, offering a prayer of thanks for the guidance and strength she had received. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and the spirits of their ancestors appeared before her, their forms glowing with soft light. The ancestors spoke in unison, their voices resonating through the temple. "Azania, daughter of Azania, you have proven yourself worthy of the crown," they said. "You have saved your kingdom and restored the balance. We grant you our blessing, for you are now the true ruler of Marub." Azania felt a surge of power and warmth fill her heart. She knew that she had not only earned the trust of her people, but also the respect of the spirits who had watched over Marub for centuries. With the blessing of the ancestors, Azania was ready to lead her kingdom into a new era, one of peace, unity, and prosperity. With Zilako defeated and the kingdom restored, Princess Azania knew that her journey had only just begun. She stood at the edge of the palace, watching as her people rebuilt their lives. The war against darkness had brought them together, and now it was time to rebuild, not just their homes, but their spirits. Azania had always believed that a leader's strength came from their ability to serve their people, not from power or wealth. With Zuberi by her side, she worked tirelessly to ensure that Marub flourished. The kingdom's alliances with neighboring lands grew stronger, and Azania led diplomatic missions to bring peace and prosperity to the entire region. As Marub thrived, Azania learned the importance of balance, the balance between strength and compassion, between leadership and humility. She knew that her role as ruler wasn't just to defend her kingdom from outside threats, but to ensure that the kingdom's heart remained pure. Under her rule, Marub became a beacon of hope and unity, a shining example of what could be achieved when people worked together for the greater good. Years passed, and the kingdom of Merub grew stronger. With each passing day, Azania, now a wise and revered queen, had fulfilled her promise to her people. The kingdom flourished under her leadership, and her legacy as a ruler who had saved Merub from darkness became a story passed down through generations. As Azania stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out over the kingdom she had fought so hard to protect, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had not only defeated an ancient demon, but had also learned the true meaning of leadership, sacrifice, love, and the strength to face the unknown. Merub was a kingdom that had survived its greatest challenge, and Azania's story would live on forever. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. And as she looked at the horizon, knowing that her people were safe and their future bright, she realized that her work was not done. The lessons she had learned about strength, courage, and compassion would continue to guide her as she led her people into a future of peace and prosperity. The kingdom of Merub had been saved, and under Queen Azania's reign, it would never again fall into darkness. Months passed after the defeat of Zalako, and Merub flourished in ways no one had ever imagined. The kingdom, once on the brink of collapse, now thrived under the leadership of Queen Azania. The people celebrated the return of prosperity, and the land itself seemed to come alive again. Crops grew bountiful, the river flowed freely, and the skies above the kingdom were always clear. Merub had become a symbol of resilience, a testament to the strength of its people and their queen. Queen Azania had not only defeated Zalako but had restored the very essence of Merub, its heart, its soul, and its future. The kingdom's streets were full of life, its markets bustling, and its people filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Azania walked among them often, not as a ruler on a pedestal, but as a leader who cared deeply for her people. She spent time with the farmers, the traders, the children, and the elders, ensuring that their voices were heard and their needs were met. Her connection to her people had only grown stronger, and she knew that her true power lay in their trust. Merub was reborn, and Azania was the queen who had led it to its greatest era of peace and prosperity. As the kingdom grew stronger, Azania realized that true leadership was not just about victory in battle, but about ensuring the well-being of the kingdom for generations to come. She called for a gathering of her most trusted allies, wise advisors, and leaders from neighboring lands. Together, they formed a council dedicated to preserving the peace and unity of the kingdom. Niazi, the shaman who had guided her during the darkest days, stood by her side as the spiritual advisor of the council. His wisdom and deep connection to the ancestors were invaluable. The strength of Merub lies not in its walls or its armies, Niazi said, but in its unity. The ancestors are watching over you, Azania, and they will continue to guide you as long as you respect the balance of the land. The council met regularly, discussing ways to improve the kingdom's infrastructure, its relationships with neighboring kingdoms, and its commitment to preserving the land's natural beauty. Azania made sure that every voice was heard, whether it was from a noble or a commoner. Under her guidance, the kingdom flourished not just in wealth, but in wisdom, harmony, and compassion. She had learned from her past trials that a truly strong kingdom was one where every individual had the opportunity to thrive. As time passed, Azania continued to seek the guidance of the ancestors. She often visited the sacred grove, a place where the spirits of the past still lingered, watching over the kingdom. The grove was a peaceful place, filled with ancient trees whose roots ran deep into the earth. It was here that Azania felt most connected to her people and the history that had shaped their land. One day, while meditating in the grove, Azania felt a presence beside her. It was the spirit of her mother, Queen Nambal. "You have done well, my daughter," the spirit said, her voice gentle and warm. "Merub is stronger because of you. But remember, true strength lies in kindness, in listening, and in always putting the needs of the people first." Azania felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. She knew that her mother's wisdom would always be with her. The ancestors had given her their blessing, and now it was her duty to honor that gift by leading with the same love and care that had defined her family for generations. Azania stood up, ready to return to her people. She knew that there would always be challenges ahead, but she was confident that Marub would continue to thrive, as long as she stayed true to the values of unity, compassion, and strength. Years passed, and Queen Azania's reign became one of the most prosperous in the history of Marub. She had defeated Zilako, restored peace to the kingdom, and created a legacy that would last for generations. As she grew older, Azania began to prepare Prince Zuberi, her younger brother, to take on more responsibility. She had always known that the future of Marub would be in his hands one day, but she also knew that he would need to carry the lessons of their past with him. Together, they traveled the kingdom, meeting with the people and learning about their lives. Azania taught Zuberi the importance of humility, the value of listening, and the strength that comes from unity. Zuberi, now a strong and wise leader in his own right, learned from his sister's example. He understood that the greatest rulers were not those who sought power, but those who sought peace and the well-being of their people. As the years went by, Azania passed on the mantle of leadership to Zuberi, knowing that he was ready to guide the kingdom into a bright future. But even as she stepped back from the throne, Azania's influence remained. She continued to serve as a wise advisor, always present when her kingdom needed her. And so, under Zuberi's leadership and Azania's guidance, the kingdom of Marub entered a new era of peace, wisdom, and prosperity, where the lessons of the past would never be forgotten. Thanks for watching till the end. If this story gave you goosebumps, give it a like and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment below and let me know what city or country you're tuning in from. I read everyone. Till then, take care, folks.